Okay. Let's go to the cities. So at the last meeting, I had mentioned that I would show everyone what exactly the parameters were of the regional of the planning region. So I'm going to do that now. So can everyone see on the screen right now? So what you can see is everything that's in the light kind of color there, white overlay color, and is and also has the other colors. That the city limits are what is shown in the multicolored areas. That basically shows where we have zoning, and that's what the layer is today, is a zoning layer. The planning region, the areas that are overlapped with the white background include, that is our planning region. Now, if you look here on 70 South, as if you're going on Jerry Cooper Highway to Woodbury, and as you look down here as you're going to Manchester, we've actually annexed so far that we are past what the original planning area is. So these are the areas that are most likely to be annexed in the future. So it creates a situation where our planning region is kind of become a little bit obsolete, I would say. We did look a few years ago at taking out a larger area before I was here. It was called what we call the urban growth boundary area, and making that planning region. There was pushback from the county about that. I've pulled up the notes from that, and that was ultimately tabled, and we didn't move forward with that idea. So basically our options are this: is if we maintain the regional planning commission area, which is again the boundary in white, then we would need to add 2 members to this commission that did not live within the city limits, but lived within that area. And so today our membership we have 5 members, and each member lives within the city limits. If we were to choose the municipal planning option, then of course the 2 members that would be added would be living within the city limits. We haven't had as much I guess, excitement about joining the commission from people who live in the regional planning area that don't live within the municipal limits. But I think there's, ultimately we need to kind of figure out which option we're going to go. I will say that one disadvantage that I recently learned about for going to the municipal planning commission, which is that we have a lot of water lines that run outside of the city limits. And I don't see anything particularly in state law that would prohibit our authority there. But one thing I did learn is that we haven't really been enforcing a lot of the same requirements as far as hookups and backflow in the planning region that's outside of the city limits. So that could be a potential problem that we could move into, because it would be nice to say, hey, that these properties are within the planning region. So anyway, I've tried to present like kind of the reasons for and the reasons against. I think it will be difficult and challenging to get 2 heavily involved members. that live in the planning region that don't live in the city limits, just for the simple fact that there's so much more that we do other than plats. Plats are really the only thing that is that we regulate that is in that area. So just thoughts. We've kind of thrown this back and forth, but what are y'all's thoughts on moving forward? I do think that it would be good to get our membership up for the simple fact of it's, we don't want to not have a quorum, which could be the case today. So.
You mentioned the backflow preventers and things like that. That is so important.
I know. So I see nothing in the law that would prohibit, if we went to a municipal planning commission, that would prohibit our ability to regulate that outside of the city limits. But I'll say that I was concerned to learn here recently that we haven't been regulating it as heavily as I think we can. And it is very important, something that a lot of people take for granted, I guess you'd say. So we've got Bob Mathis, who was with us at the last meeting. He's been in water and sewer and is very knowledgeable on that issue. So it's something we're looking into doing a little bit more, but the regulation of water lines within our municipal planning commission boundary could be a reason to table this for a while. And if we do, it would be good to go ahead, I think, and add to members, if we can, that live in the planning region. One of the reasons I brought this up when we did is we just happened to have 2 members come off the committee that lived in the planning region, but not in the city limits. So it was kind of an ideal time to look at potentially changing the format that we were under. But if there's hesitation to do it, we certainly don't want to not have quorums. So that's kind of my kind of weighing the options, I guess you'd say. Any thoughts?
Are we going to get any trouble with the state for not enforcing the backflow?
Well,
They're going to come back on and say, you're not doing that.
Yeah, I don't think there's any right now that there's anything from the state that is pushing us to do that. But I will say that it's certainly best prerogative to be doing that. And I don't want to do anything that would make it harder for us to install that and to regulate that, because that is a very important thing. I was very surprised to hear that we're not out when, and again, it's just where the water lines are outside of the city limits. But I'd like to be able to keep as much, and water and sewer agrees to have as much authority to regulate that as possible, because whether you're doing a backflow situation outside of the city limits or inside the city limits, is still the same water system, and we need to make sure that we're keeping that safe. So
I think it's a good thing to look at it like we have.
mm-hmm.
I just can't get a good feeling about giving it up. That's
Yeah.
just my personal.
Sort of like,
Well, what this brought up to me is what you said, Jerry, at a previous meeting, is it's kind of along the lines of, well, you don't know. There are a lot of different legislative things that come out of Nashville, and you don't know exactly the future of what a new state law is going to be, or, I'd hate to take away that authority or move away from that authority, and then we find out that there's a law that comes out and says those who have water lines outside of the city limits are prohibited from requiring water permits for those customers. I mean, I would hate for that to happen, because then we'd be in a real bind as far as that backflow issue that I just mentioned. And we just, at first my thought was, hey, let's really look at this. But with that issue and that caveat about how we really need to be regulating water lines outside of the city limits, I'm thinking that that could be a real disadvantage to doing that. The problem will be is we do need to have, if we keep it as a regional planning commission, then we absolutely legally have to have 2 new members that are within the regional planning commission that live within, or excuse me, that live within the limits of the municipal planning boundary, but not in the city limits. So, you know, we can speak about who that might be if that's how we wanted to proceed. But right now, I mean, we really wouldn't need a motion or anything. That's why I was doing this first, because give Rachel some time, because today it is a regional planning commission, so there'd be no switch essentially. Okay, makes sense. It kind of, although we don't have a quorum, kind of maybe.
Mayor, how do you feel about this?
I kind of agree with you guys. So,
Okay. Well, Mayor, if you don't mind, maybe we can speak afterwards and see about who we could appoint potentially for that, so that we can, because we've had 5 members and we've been good with, we haven't missed a quorum, but today that could be, if Rachel's not able to get out of court, we may have to delay this for a future day. So having said that, that's one item that we didn't need a quorum. Another item that I have for you is, and it's actually, I passed it out. You can see there's a zoning map, and it has get to it on my own. It is for 307 North Spring Street. Now, this was an item that this commission recommended for approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. It will be discussed tonight, but there have been some updates on that I wanted everyone to know about. And then just kind of, I can see being asked by the full Board of Mayor and Aldermen about this issue. So since we have a planning commission meeting today, I think it'd be good to get your input. When we originally, when the request came in to rezone this, at the time, the last time we had done a building inspection evaluation of the property, the property was in bad shape, but not to the point of potential imminent collapse. Here in recent weeks, we have gone and done a subsequent inspection of the property. It is deteriorated substantially. I think Jim actually got an opportunity to see it himself. And it is, we have asked, and Public Works has barricaded up that 307 North Spring Street, so you cannot walk on the sidewalk. They have put caution tape around it. There's some real concern about that. So we have told the property owner, and I will be sending actually today a demolition order, and they have the ability to appeal that. That can go to what we call to our Board of Building Appeals. It's very rarely used body, but it is the same number of people, same people as the Board of Zoning Appeals. So that may be coming before us for you guys that are also on that committee here at the end of the month. But
what's changed just in the last couple of weeks?
well, it's been the last time that we had the inspection, the back of the building was still intact. The back of the building has fallen at this point, and there's debris below. Now, the whole building itself has not fallen, but the back of the building, which supports the multi-layered floors, has fallen down.
Okay.
And it is being held up by a number of 4x4s that, if were knocked out inappropriately, could cause the whole building to collapse. The issues are not you have to go to the back of the building to see the worst problems with the building. It's not, you don't really see it when you're at the front of the building because it is in the back. But it is a substantial issue. I don't know exactly what point and when that back did fall down, but it's obvious that there is debris that has not been cleaned up from that partial.
I looked at it before our other meeting,
Yeah,
and the back was gone. Then you
At
could
that
just see
point.
inside. It could still be, but it would cost 10 times more to restore it than it would be worth. I just can't
Yeah.
imagine somebody spending the money that it would take.
so our inspector through Municipal Inspection Partners, which is the temporary agency that's helping us out with inspections, have a master code professional on, in his analysis after looking at it the second time, was that he believes it is at a state that it cannot be repaired, that it is basically unsalvageable. When we reach that point where it is unsalvageable, that's when we move forward with the demolition order. And so based on his expertise in that, saying there is just no way to bring this back, that's where we make that determination. So
You cannot make that judgment without going around back, because if you just drive by it or look at the picture, you think, because the brick are still reasonably good.
that's exactly
That's the only
right.
part.
That's exactly right. And it was rather shocking to me when I myself first viewed it from the back. It was, whoa, but yeah, so I want to bring this forward because it is a change in circumstance on the rezoning. The rezoning is still in the docket. I still think that it makes sense, and my staff recommendation is still to move forward with rezoning for the simple fact. Let me show this. I'll zoom down in on it.
Hey, David, Rachel says that she got shuffled around in court and doesn't have any idea when she's gonna be.
Okay. Well, we may have to, thanks for letting me know that. We may have to just reschedule. But I will say, I guess we can, because of this issue today, if you guys are comfortable with it, we can just finish this issue, because it will be discussed tonight at the Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting, and then we'll have to go push back the other ones. Again, there'd be no quorum here, but essentially, let's see if I can zoom on in here. Are you still seeing it on your screen?
Yeah.
So this right here is the property in question. That is, as you can see on your zoning maps, the one for R5. We are getting a lot. We've had requests in the past, even before I came back to the city, about some potential R5 uses there. I really see that the North Spring Street it has the potential to be very similar to College Street. They're parallel streets. As more and more people take up the properties for offices within our downtown, which we're getting closer and closer to full occupancy every day, there's going to be more and more desire for a small office style development. And having that street go R5 just makes sense. It is already what the Planning Commission has recommended, but I did want to make sure that with that change in condition of there being a demolition order, that you still feel comfortable with that recommendation.
I think it might help the next person that came along there, or this person that did tear it down, to have something little more to do with it, what he do with it now.
Yeah,
It is a valuable lot there with the location.
yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, thank you for that. I'll be able to discuss that tonight with members. The other couple of non-quorum issue related things. One thing I do want to let you guys know is that we have extended an offer for the community planner job. The person who we've offered this to lives in Colorado today and is looking or will be relocating. We don't have a set start date or anything like that. Of course, it's a conditional offer based on their passing the pre-employment process that everyone has to offer. So they would need to finish that, and then we would look at a start date. But this person has a good amount of experience. I'm really happy that he applied, and hopefully that it'll come to fruition that they will make that move. So he currently lives in a city about the same size in Colorado, and made it clear that he did not want to live in the big city. So that was a plus. Likes this size town essentially, and was looking to relocate to this area. So that's looking good. On the other issues, I know we have someone here today about the plat. And Michael, is there a hard timeline on this? I mean, I guess we're going to have to look at pushing it back to the next meeting.
Whatever you do. I mean,
Yeah.
We're obviously helpful with the guy 2 weeks ago, but
Right. Sure.
whatever you do. I mean, it's gonna be hard on the commission to meet on scheduled times. I mean, I guess the best time is the next regular schedule.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we're going to have to do that because it's a special called meeting. By the time we actually put notice for the special called meeting, then it would already be the regular time for the meeting essentially. I will say that Michael, so going back to the items that we can't unfortunately vote on today, but I'll just go through for a summary for those who were able to work here with us today. On the final plat, it does meet all the requirements, and we were going to recommend approval for that plat.
It's just not, y'all can't do this in-house since it was.
Now-
by-
Yeah, it's too many lots to do it administratively, unfortunately.
Now that you want to talk about road superintendent.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that so we can. One thing that is it is different on the plats that were in your packet versus what Michael just passed out, or what I passed out for Mr. Moore, is the county road superintendent signature line was taken out. And the reason that was taken out is because these are two state routes, and they've added a general note, which is actually listed as note 6, which basically says that these are maintained by Tennessee Department of Transportation, and therefore ingress egress is not regulated by the county, and therefore the county doesn't sign in that circumstance. So it's rare that we have a plat in the planning region that is on two straight routes, but that are at the corner of two straight routes, but that is the case here. So it is different than what was in your packet. So we wanted to, but other than that, we've got all the signatures ready. It just would have to go. Again, it can't be administratively because of the number of lots. So we'll just have to get it at the next meeting. Moving on the agenda, we had the movers and moving rentals in C2, and again, sorry that we don't have the quorum. We'll have to push this back. Last time we discussed the concept of doing this. In your packet, I had the new terminology, but what I found when I put it into PDF format is, for whatever reason, it deleted what the words were being struck. So I printed out for you where where the strucken words were. Now, this is actually, I combined this with the next item on the agenda because that is what we call residential adjacency requirement. So I'll give a little bit of background on that issue. Today, there are, for our automobile motor uses, car lots, those things, there is a clause that states that a special exception cannot be granted for that use in C2 if it is directly adjacent to a residential use. Now, if you look across town, there are a lot of, I guess, either for whatever reason they were granted or they were non-conforming or whatever they may be, that actually are next to a residential lot. But the one that I got a phone call about it's actually on Smithville Highway. It's kind of off of and on a side road, Needmore. But the actual use itself, the car dealership, is actually 300 plus feet to where the residential use is. So I could actually maybe be helpful for me to scroll here and show you guys where that is. But you'll see kind of why we're looking at a revision here by looking at this. So I believe the intent of that regulation is so that you don't have a commercial or particularly automobile use that is right next to someone's backyard. But what I don't think it was intended to do was to prevent of a lot like this. So that's the lot that's at issue. You see it's off Needmore. You can see how there's substantial property right here on that same lot. But technically, if you read the words verbatim, it is adjacent, because adjacent means a bordering lot to a residential lot. But when you've got 350 feet, it kind of takes away the reasoning or the intent for the regulation. So what I've done in the edits here is put something that I've strucken out. It actually was duplicative. And so I've said shall not be located adjacent to any residential zoning district, or if adjacent, shall have no portion of the land use closer than 150 feet from the neighboring property.
David, I think we need to be real cautious. That was probably a car lot before that was annexed into the city, very likely. And I think I would oppose this because it's going to get us in a situation. And the reason those are reviewed, the car lots, and Jim will know this better than I, we had some that was on gravel and everything. Well, when they were sold, that gave you an opportunity to make them meet the upgrades. And I don't think you can just say because there was a car lot there that you can sell it and pass it on. And Jim can correct me if I'm wrong. I think that was
well, here, if we don't pass this, I'll tell you what, unfortunately, we could not grant a special exception to another automobile dealer. If someone came into this property, which was obviously built for an automobile use, we would not be able to grant a special exception for it to continue in that use because it is located adjacent to it. That would be the impact of
the grandfather in phase would not.
It would not apply because of the transfer of the special exception.
But they never was on some of it never was granted because there was not a purpose of a special exception.
That's the old Chrysler building, isn't it? And that's where the Chrysler building used to be.
It may be.
I'm not sure.
Because Tim's Auto Sales now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where Chrysler
Yeah.
is. And I think that was. I always thought that was a legal non-conforming use.
But see, here's the thing is that we grant those as special exceptions. And so to sell it, we have to grant it as a special exception to the next person, which takes away that nonconformity. Now,
I can see the problem there.
so what you could do, now the other thing that I have listed here is to take away the special exception approval. If you look further on that language to number 13, where it says special approval shall not be transferred to another owner, I've taken that out. So what I think we should do, because they are two separate issues and we don't want to hold up the movers and moving equipment, but we'll do it in two separate spots. So that, because I hear that we have some concerns about the other one. So I'll set that up for approval at the next meeting.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that particular property,
Yeah.
but just to put that in any residential 150 foot,
Well, we could move that further back if you'd like. What I don't want to do is, I think that historically that shall not be located adjacent to any residential district. I fear that maybe that was kind of looked over when we're granting special exceptions, maybe, or that maybe we just have a lot of these non-conforming uses. But if we, as I understand the law, if we are granting another special exception, if it does not run with the land, then the non-conforming use goes away. So maybe the way to do it is to just make the edit that says the special approval should not be transferred to another owner. So then it runs with the land and the non-conforming use would stay. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay. We can look at doing it that way. Any comments? Okay. So on the movers and moving equipment, we've put a clause that would allow for that in C2, provided that the minimum size of the lot was 30,000 square feet. Did some research on what size lots are needed for U-Hauls, what other cities have done. I think that's twice the size of our current R1 zoning district, and that is the property for the applicant in this case is larger than 30,000 square feet, which would allow them to have this use should that be approved. Any concerns about that edit? Okay.
sounds good.
All right.
On that list, you got, is number 5 and number 9 the same?
It may be, and it may be duplicative in our ordinance. It wouldn't be the only thing that's duplicative. So I'll look back at that, Jim, and see if that was if it was where the issue is. But it does look the same. So I'll double check that. Okay.
It appears to be.
Yeah, that's a good find. The other items that we had, the self-service storage facilities, the minimum warehouse, the height requirement in C2 for all other buildings is actually 35 square feet. However, there was a clause, it looks like historically it was put in to only make it 18 square feet, or excuse me, 18 feet in the C2 for self-storage. We've had numerous requests for people that are looking to do internal self-storage. And this would allow for that up to 24 feet to allow the 2-story internal use. So this came forward at our last meeting from an applicant that was looking to do a special exception and would be would also benefit a number of different inquiries that we've gotten. So any
That sounds
concerns
like
there?
something that would be reasonable to approve at the proper time.
Okay. And then the last one that we have, it's really more of a note for you guys to let you know what we are investigating right now. I've labeled it as limited commercial, single family mixed use. there could be some building and fire code issues related to this that we're going to review with the potential applicant on Thursday. But we've got somebody at 103 Garfield Street that it actually has two kitchens, and they want to look at doing one half of the building where as a commercial only, takeout only, and then the rest of it they would live in. So there's some real zoning concerns there, as well as building and fire concerns. It may be, I think the zoning concerns are things that we could take care of with the text amendment, but the building and fire, once I'm concerned they may change their desire to move forward with that once they realize the cost of firewalls and that kind of thing. So
How about parking on that front? It doesn't appear to have much.
the lot is a little bit larger than you might expect to the side, not up front, but on the side there is, they would basically have to take down some trees, but it does look like you could have parking on the side, which that is the same side that they're proposing for the takeout only commercial use. So from an ingress egress perspective, parking perspective, zoning perspective, with a few edits, it could work for them. But I am concerned, we haven't done a review yet on a building and fire code level. And I suspect there could be some price associated with that. And they may not move
You
forward
want
with it.
back out on the street, the Garfield Street.
I'm sorry.
You
What?
don't want backing out.
Yeah, it would need to be, the parking would need to be wide enough to turn both ways. But I think that there's potential for that. I think probably the bigger issue is the building and the fire code. So we'll see if they move forward with that.
I think if they could meet everything, it could conceivably work at that location.
Yeah. It is commercial, and it's hard, for us, because when they saw it was commercial, they think, okay, well, why don't we just do half and half? And as the code is written today, our zoning code, it wouldn't be permitted. But we'll have to just see if they're interested in moving forward with it. So.
Fire codes for arrest are much stiffer than they are for a lot of different occupancies.
Yeah. And what they may decide is that they want to do it as if they did it only as no one's coming, they just have a delivery driver, then it might be what we call a customary home occupation. There are a couple different routes we could go with it. But I do see it as more people potentially wanting to take advantage of it in the C2 areas that were originally homes and they've been converted into commercial use. So we'll style. I would suspect we'll have something more to report to you, whether they're moving forward on that at our next meeting. The last thing I'll say is that we discussed it at the last meeting, but I think moving forward with regular meetings on the second Tuesday of the month and the last Tuesday of the month makes sense moving forward. Sticking with the last Tuesday of the month, I believe it makes sense because you also have the BZA meetings. I don't suspect that we'll have the volume of cases in the BZA and historic to also require that twice a month. But I do think with the Planning Commission, we're getting to that level of volume. Okay. Again, sorry for those of you who are applicants that we didn't have a quorum. It's rare that we don't have a quorum, but it did happen today, and I apologize, and that we'll get with you guys individually about when the next meeting would be. So.
Okay, thank you very much for all the updates. We don't need to adjourn because we didn't officially meet. So
yeah. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good luck in here. These for the next.
Non-meeting.
Our non-meeting. That mean I don't get paid?
We should ask that question before you start.
Still wondering, we just couldn't do it, man.
They take place
Yeah.
at the city water. Still got some.
Sometimes we're around, just one brand new behind.
I was gonna